specifically from frames from a movie. And we're going to use this so we can start analyzing what's going on. We can also look at trying to find the most effective way of drawing storyboards to quickly and concisely give information to our audience or crew, and also pick up some Photoshop drawing skills along the way. So let's go straight ahead and open up our document here. It is a PSD file, so if you do have Photoshop, you should be able to open that just by double clicking it. Otherwise, right click, open with Photoshop, or drag into the Photoshop icon here. Now, what you might be seeing is when you first open this up is something that's going to look similar to what we have on the screen here, which has a lot of windows open on the right, layers, learn, color, and things like that. Now, it's very important that we do clear up our workspace as best as we can so that maximum view is given to what we see on our project. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off learn and colors. I'm going to leave layers. It's important that we keep those. And I'm simply going to go to window, and you'll see anything that's turned on here is going to have a little tick to it. I'm going to leave application frame options and tools down the bottom of this low part, but I'm going to turn off learn. I'm going to turn off color, and this is just going to give me my layers panel. And you can stretch this out. You can also detach these and move them around, but for now let's just leave the layers over here. Let's have a quick look at the template here. Now, to navigate around this template, you'll notice there are 8 frames here. I've custom built this just for this exercise, and storyboards are going to come in a lot of shapes and sizes, but for this is custom built. And what you wouldn't normally see is this section on the right. Now, the section on the right has some annotations that we're going to use later on, zoom in, zoom out, etc., etc. Now, I've created this template, and it has an alpha channel on it. So essentially what that means is this area behind is going to be transparent. So we're going to be able to place our images behind here, and they're going to fit nicely in there. So make sure that template is locked, with a locking mechanism there. So you can turn on and off, but for the most part you won't be able to draw on it, you won't be able to move it. It's going to come up and tell you that it is locked. The camera arrows and movements are in here. They're all in a folder, and later on we are going to use these to help it to annotate. So that's going to come up. I've also added in a little folder called tips and tricks, which has some other information that could be relevant, such as camera shots, camera angles, camera movements, and also a little about using the brush tool as well. So if you do get stuck, you can quickly pop into those and sort of see what's going on. Now let's get started by getting our images into the document. I'm just going to move my document across a little bit, and I have a folder here with some images called screen grabs. Now, what I really do want you guys to do is actually watch through the short film section that these are applied to. And as I move through them, as we can see, there should be about 8 shots altogether. And what you need to do is actually take these and put them into your document to start with, and also start putting them in order. So I'm going to close that off. I'm going to grab all of those. I'm going to shift select all of those, and I'm going to drag them into my document. So let's bring this back to full screen. Now, if you are dragging from a hard drive or your computer and shift dragging, when you first place them into Photoshop, you will see that there is a big X through the image. And what this is going to do is going to place the image as a smart object, which we are going to be using a lot of later on. And what you just need to do is hit enter, and that will then place that. Then it'll come to the next one, and basically we just enter, 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 and you'll need to do that 8 times, obviously, for all of the images there. And here are all our images in our storyboard progression. Now, they are way too big for the screen, so I actually want to get these to fit closer to the frames that we have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift select all of these. I am going to go Command or Control T if you're in a PC, You can also go to edit and go to free transform. As you can see, it'll have the shortcut there, but it is one of the most important shortcuts to try and remember. So Command T if you're on Mac, Control T if you are on PC, and that will get you to your transformation controls. So I'm going to do that right now. And here we can see there's a bounding box around here. Now, when you are transforming, what you'll typically be able to do is move these things up and around. You can, if you move your arrow outside, you can rotate. And there is a bit of a lag happening here. I am actually using a separate monitor off to the side, so we are losing a bit of processing power there. And these are also smart objects, and there's a whole heap of them, so it is taking up a bunch of stuff. I'm going to cancel this, so I don't really want it to look like this. It is stretched for one, and I don't want this rotation. So I just want to get back to where it was. I'm going to hit this cancel button here, get them back. Alright, let's do this properly. So Command T is going to bring up my transformation controls. When I am transforming, I don't want to stretch them, so I'm just going to Command Z. So when transforming, I'm going to make sure I press the Shift key. If you press the Shift key and then start transforming, it will maintain its proportions. It won't stretch it. So very important that you do that. There is another option to this. Up here, at the very top area here, you'll see a section that says W and then H. This is for width and height. There's a little keychain next in between them. I can press that, and that is going to make sure that when I do transform, it is also going to be to those exact ratios. So if it's stuff you don't want to stretch, you might want to press that early on. I'm going to use my move key, the very first key on our tool bar here. Shortcut for that is V. And if you hover over it, if you press and hold on any of these, you will see that there is a shortcut option for that. Again, very important. So V. I'm going to move that up into the top left corner. I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm going to keep stretching this down until I start getting to the size pretty close to fit that area. If you want to have a zoom in and make sure, and you're going to be doing a lot of zooming and zooming out, don't forget to press Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and the plus key to zoom in, or the minus key to zoom out. If you're in the wrong place, if you press the space bar, that will bring up the hand control and will allow you to move closer to that space. So I'm going to zoom out again and move that around with the hand tool. So there are shortcuts, those are the shortcuts for this. If you look on your toolbar, you can actually find things like the move tool, but it's most likely that they've got rid of them. And you've also got things like the magnifying tool, which you can click on, or the zoom tool, where you can manually zoom in and zoom out and that kind of thing. But once you know the shortcuts, you'll probably find you use those more often than not, so you don't have to jump back and forth. So Command plus minus and spacebar. So once I have all those in place and I'm happy with the location, I'm going to shift those up and down a little bit. All you need to do is hit the enter or hit the tick key. If you want to cancel the transformation, you can here as well. There is an important thing before I carry on to the next thing, which is snapping. Now I currently have snap turned on, which will quite often help you out if you're trying to align things. It can get a little bit tricky if it keeps trying to snap to something and you don't want it to. If that is the case, turn that off. So you just go to view and turn that off, and that will give you more free form as far as that goes. I'm going to go ahead and press the enter key or the tick key there. So there's all my shots. They're all stacked up. They're all around about the same size because I've taken them from the same source. And now I need to place them in order. So what you should have done is actually had a look through the film sequence, and I've saved you a bit of time by grabbing these shots individually. Now, these are actually in the incorrect order. The one at the top is actually the last shot, and I'm going to start moving these to the correct locations. Now, there's a couple of things to do before we start moving them around. The move key V, which I've mentioned before, is going to allow us to grab and move things. You select on a layer, you should be able to move it. By default, auto select is usually on. Auto select allows you to click onto an image and it will automatically select it, hence auto select. So if I select on this one by clicking on it, it will select it there. If I click on this one, it will reselect it there. It's extremely helpful. It can, however, be a little bit of a hindrance later on. So you'll quite often find it's when we start using other layers and transparencies and stuff, I will recommend that you turn this off and that you manually select things by pressing Alt. And Alt will bring up, Command or Control, not Alt, will bring up and toggle this auto select thing. So if you do want to select it, you can. If not, you can click on anything else and it will only affect that image. Alright, so I'm going to get these into order. And don't forget, in Photoshop, Command Z will let you step back. And if you go to Edit, you can go Shift Command Z to redo. So undo and redo. It has recently been changed. It used to be Command Alt Z to step further backwards, and Command Z was just forward and back. So they've just this year changed that. So Shift Command Z to redo a move, Command Z to undo. So I'm going to get that back to its transformation, Shift Command Z, and roughly about there. Let's get these into order. So I've actually turned off auto select in this case, and this one here is the end one, so I'm going to drag that down. You can see these little pink lines trying to snap it into place. They are being a bit of a hindrance, so I'm going to go to View, turn off Snap, and just grab them there. Whoop. Turn on auto select, which I didn't do. Now I can click on this one. Let's get that into order. Click on this one, and let's just keep moving them. I'm going to get them pretty rough to start with, like so, like so, like so, like so. There we go. Now there is another trick I'm going to show you guys really quick. The more tricks you can learn, the better, and just being aware of them. I'm going to select multiple images in this case. I'm going to select all of these ones on the left hand side. So auto select is on in this case, so I'm going to click on this one. You can see it's being collected there. I'm then going to press Shift and click on this one, keep holding Shift, press this one there, and as you can see, it's selected all 4 of those in the layers panel. Now if I go up the top here, we have some alignment options. So I'm going to go align left edges, and that's going to shift them all to there. I'm then going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard and just nudge them across, and then I'm going to just grab them individually and just nudge them using the arrow keys to try and get them in place. There we go. I'm going to do the same with the ones on the right. Shift and select. Let's auto align them to the left, for example. I'm going to nudge them across using the arrow keys, and then once again individually select them and just try and make sure that they're in, reasonably close to the shots there. Alright, I'm going to grab all of these in my layers panel, shift select them all, and then I'm going to go down to this little icon that looks like a folder, and that's going to drop them into a group, which means that they're all packaged away nicely. I can turn them on and off, and I'm going to double click on that name, and let's call this shots photo, because they are photos of the shots. And I'm going to drag those below the template. So what that means is that now that they're below there, they are hidden behind the template, and if I select on a layer, you can see I can move it around and it's going to not impede over the top of the text here. Okay, now these are a bit dark, so what we can do is we can go in and change the adjustments. I've done that for you already, but if need be, we can actually adjust these all together in a folder by going to this icon here. It looks like a half circle, and I'm going to go to levels. And levels, I'm just going to push this up a little bit over here, and I'm just going to push the brightness up in here. This is kind of a little bit more advanced than just starting off, but we will get into stuff like this a bit later on. But that's just going to brighten everything below there. So just make it a little bit more visible. Alright, so next thing we actually also want to start doing is drawing on this. Now I'm just going to drop in a background color here as well, but we want to start drawing over these shots. We do not want to draw on them. They are currently smart objects, which means we can't anyway. So we actually want to create our own layers, which are going to be below the template, so we can draw on them, but above the photos. So I'm going to just go, and this little icon here, it's got a little plus sign on it. Has changed slightly from previous version, but that is the create a new layer icon, and that's going to create a new layer. And this is what we're going to start drawing on. So in order to start drawing, if you do have access to the Wacom tablets, fantastic. They are, an absolute, miracle when it comes to drawing things and to try to draw with a essentially a brick, which is a mouse. But let's have a quick look at doing that. So we are going to start using the brush tool for this. The other thing I'm going to recommend is on the photos that we've got here, let's just lower the opacity a little bit so that when we do start drawing on it, we can actually see our drawing a little bit more. And as we start progressing, we will start either turning off these photos to make sure our drawings are actually readable, or gradually lowering the opacity. And once again, do get yourself familiarized with this shot as far as the video sequence goes, because you will be annotating. So the key thing is to get the most important information in the shots as quickly as possible and as readable as possible. So I'm just going to pause the video here, and then in the next tutorial we're going to jump straight into the drawing.